Good afternoon. This is Life, Love, and the Pursuit of FI with your host, Austin Culp.
And Greg Gaskin.
This week, we have the infamous Millennial Money Honey with us. Katie, how are you doing this week?
Great, guys. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk all things FI with you.
It's our pleasure. So, let's get started. How did Millennial Money Honey come to be? How did you create the now giant name that is your brand?
It was this super organic thing. I've never set out on this journey to FI and building the Millennial Money Honey brand, okay, I woke up, I'm gonna start this thing. It was just a very much me figuring out, just the basics of investing and what to do with the savings that I had started to accumulate. At the time I was 26. So I even technically got a late start relative to you. And then I was just sharing I learned today, it's better to invest in a traditional 401k per the mad scientist, and would just share stuff like that on my personal Instagram. And I was doing that for a couple of years before I transitioned my personal Instagram over to Millennial Money Honey to kind of go full dive into the deep end of okay, I'm going to only talk about FIRE. I'm going to kind of niche down my finance content because there's so many different types of personal finance accounts. Some people talk about being debt free or becoming debt free or paying off student loans. And my focus is sharing my journey to become financially independent and work optional. So, yeah.
Where did that journey begin? Out of curiosity.
The FIRE part of the finance journey, or?
Yeah, overall, the FIRE part.
Yeah. Since I've been talking about investing and just general, what's an index fund? What's the difference between a stock? A friend, an old coworker recommended I check out the Mr. Money Mustache blog. Of course, I feel like that's so many people's gateway into learning about financial independence. The simple math behind early retirement, I believe, was the article she sent me. And I read that, and that chart where it's the higher savings rate, the faster amount of time, literally that made it all click. And I was like, I don't even know. I've never been into budgeting, honestly, never been into tracking my money. I'm not that granular or that in my numbers. Just all I know is don't have debt. Debt is bad. That's just been ingrained in me from a very young age. So just knowing I always have cash in my account, a credit card is like a debit card. It's not there if you don't have the money. That's never been, so budgeting therefore has just never been a really thing. Just have a surplus of money, don't overspend. You don't have money that you don't have. So then after that, I went back into all my credit cards, all of my transactions as far as I could, and was trying to see okay, what's my savings rate? And at that time, I think it was between 50%. So it was already a pretty good savings rate for somebody not even interested in pursuing FIRE. But after that, I was all right, I'm going hard. And this was in September of 2019 is when I started. I think I read the article. So, I mean, not too long ago. And ever since then, I've just been obsessed to the point where it's I really struggle with spending now versus I was doing okay, 50% savings rate, 50 to 60, and not hyper focused on my spending. And now it's really hard for me to spend because I was so focused right now on just keeping my savings rate high.
What's your ideal savings rate? I'm assuming most people it's 100%, but is there a range that you prefer to stay in and a range that you don't want to go below?
Not really. My goal for the year is 85% savings rate. I'm not really into real estate right now or anything like that. So, and I'm very fortunate that I am currently living at home. So I don't pay any rent. I don't pay utilities. I help out with groceries or food or stuff like that here and there. But my housing expenses is non-existent right now, which that's really truly the only way I've been able to save as much as I have these last few years, honestly. So very fortunate, and I recognize that.
Nice. So were you living at home before your fire journey, or was it just something that kind of happened recently?
Yeah, so it kind of happened to coincide at the same time. I had been looking to move at least closer to my parents. And so in 2020, in January, I I freelanced for a couple months, and then I decided to take a contract up in the Bay Area. And since my parents are living in the Bay Area, I was like, hey, I'll just like stay with you a couple months until I figure things out. I don't know, like the neighborhoods of the Bay Area, San Francisco, like let me just get a feel, and then I'll like move out and try that out. And then of course, pandemic, everything shut down. I was like, well, I'm already home. So this is just extra convenient. And I was very fortunate in that it just happened to like kind of all fall into place that way. And yeah, don't mess with a good thing then. The plan is eventually to obviously move out. I can't stay at home forever as much as I love my parents and I'm very grateful for them. I have like a bunch of travel going on. I have like 6 weddings this year, which is going to be a lot of traveling and everything. So I'm like living out of my suitcase the next 2 months. So it's like really convenient to not have to like have that expense anyway. So maybe next year-ish, we'll see.
What have been some ways that you've kind of helped increase your savings rate? Is there, different ways of saving that you found?
Really just not spending so much. And actually prior to, like I used to shop a lot. I used to really care about like what I look like, appearances. Being a girl is expensive. You guys, I can't emphasize, getting your nails done. I used to get like eyelash extensions, which like they glue individual like single lashes on top of your lashes. And like, that's like $90 to like $100 with tip, like every 3 weeks. And, haircuts in California are, minimum 300 for like a nice salon. Like it's just so expensive. So things like that, I definitely like stopped caring about. I've kind of reintroduced like some more fancy habits, but more like in a DIY version because there's like at-home kits that I've been getting into lately. But things like that definitely cut back. And, because like you look at the trade-off is like the money that could be invested, $300 towards your investments or a $300 haircut. Like it's like pretty, aside from like rent and stuff, those were like the maintenance of keeping up and looking cute was probably my biggest spend. And then like I got super into thrifting, and now I'm like almost exclusively buy clothes secondhand. So that keeps costs low too, but I still like looking cute.
Nice. What's something that you tried to be frugal about, but after you did it, you were like, no, I can't handle this?
That's a great question. Well, I mean, definitely after these last few years, as I was saying, like I've really been reintroducing like doing my nails again, and being okay with even going thrift shopping, because I did like a year of absolutely no spending. Like I did not buy a single new article of clothes. I didn't buy anything new for my house. Like no little tchotchkes. I would have gone into Target, and spend like, $300. Like it was something I didn't have to worry about. But like after doing that, I've decided like, okay, like Goodwill's not that expensive, Katie. Like if you're buying like $60 to get like 6 new clothes, like you don't have to be cheap about that. Like, and honestly, I'm like, just like have been really cheap about things. Like, and people are like, oh, I'm not cheap, I'm frugal. No, I'm freaking cheap. Like I like, well, spend the time on Amazon and be like, okay, which one's the cheapest thing? Like with the best reviews, but like cheap, and like sometimes it's just like not the best to be cheap about. Even like cheap about like your makeup or stuff like that. Like it's like going, your skin is like an organ, so I'm like putting like this shitty dollar store like makeup on me. I'm like, I gotta stop. Like I'm too old for that. Like I need to be looking at the ingredients and put better quality things on me, for example. Yeah.
So, do you think there's a good balance that you have to find between frugality and on the other end of the spectrum of just spending all the money?
Yeah, and actually, I mean, and it's funny, like prior to fire, like I was on one end of the spectrum, and once I found fire, I was like completely the other end of the spectrum, like super frugal. And like I'm really this year really, really, really hyper super focused on like trying to spend better and spend and not have any regret. Cause like that spending guilt, I think, is something that a lot of fire people have to deal with after they've, you know, how to spend on what they value, like value based spending. And it's one thing to talk about, it's another to put it into practice and execute on it. I think it's like, I don't know, at least it's really hard for me to like find that balance. I'm still finding it, trying to find it.
So, with Millennial Money Honey, do you create content every single day?
I try, or at least to show up on my story every single day. It's like too much of a, I don't ever want it to feel like a job. I want it to always be fun. So no, I don't create content every day because otherwise I think I would feel like this is a chore that I have to do. So really I try to just, whenever I like, it's really much all in waves. Like whenever I feel like inspiration strikes, sometimes I'll be like posting three TikToks in a day, and I'm like, yeah, well, send it, whatever. I really, there is no real rhyme or reason, honestly, to my content. Yeah, other than like, oh, I haven't posted in a while. Like, let me see what inspires me, and then I'll go like make something day of, and I can just bang it out really quick.
Are you sponsored, or have you ever been sponsored through your brand?
Yeah, I made like a little bit of money. I think last year I made like, it wasn't very much. It was like $6,000 from brand deals and sponsorships. I don't really know how much in like affiliate codes. I should like dive deeper into that. But it's not that much, honestly. I do have like, I guess goals. Like I would like to make $10,000 this year. Like, let me just, or like 12,000, doubling it. That's just like a arbitrary goal. I'm not really actively working to that towards that, but and two, like when I think about like how I can, like what feels the most authentic, like a lot of content creators kind of push courses and things like that, and it's like hard for me to like validate like me doing a fire course because I haven't achieved that. You know, I if anybody asks, like I direct them to like our rich journey, because they've reached fire. They're living the fire life in Portugal, and like, so I'm like, oh, go if you are more interested. If people ask me and I'm like, they want to learn more about fire, I'm like, oh, like go check that out. Like, I mean, I can only help people so much. I know people say like, oh, you only have to be two steps ahead, but for me, that just it doesn't sit right. So I'm trying to figure out how to monetize Millennial Money Honey as a brand in a way that feels like good and authentic, and really haven't figured that out yet either.
Did you have to reach out to get sponsored, or were you reached out to?
Mostly they reach out. The only people I've reached out to are like brands that are like if you've seen my stories, I'm like hyping up this like nail kit. I'm like, hey, like, do you want to give me like an affiliate link with a coupon code that like I can push to my followers. Brands like that, I'm like, I'll like slide into their DMs, and usually those are like a little bit easier because lifestyle and like beauty brands are just easy. They're always trying to collaborate. But I did do one bank that I tried to slide into their DMs, stockpile, to see if they could give me like a link or affiliate code, because I was like gifting my friend's baby like stock for Christmas, of course. And I was like, yo, you guys, they haven't tapped into their influencer marketing. I'm like, this is unreached potential. You guys need to get into this. Like, let me be an affiliate. But no, I haven't really reached out to people. I've mostly just been, they reach out to me via email.
Okay, nice. When you do reach out, do you just kind of, like you said, do you just slide in their DMs like, hey, I'm so and so. Here's all my links. This is what I do. Would you like to partner up, or how does that look?
Yeah, that's exactly. I'm like, hey, I love this. I think our brand aligns in this way. And would you like to collaborate on something? That's really all I do. And I do have like a digital media kit. I need to be better about like keeping up with it. That just has like quick stats. I need to put something together with my rates though too, because yeah, the thing with content creation and all of these, it's like, so, I mean, I talk to fellow content creators to ask like, whoa, what are the average like real rates for like my size that you're charging? Like, what are your rates? And people are like, oh, like 1,000? Like, I don't know. Like, so like, there's no good way to tell. I've been, other than like just talking to other finance content creators.
There's a lot of them out there.
I know. And it's like, I remember
It's
somebody like accidentally, like one brand sent an email and didn't BCC them. And so it had a ton of finance bull on it. And somebody responded back with their rate and it was like $5,000 for a TikTok. Granted, she had like 300,000 followers at the time. And I was like, oh my God. Like, the content creation space is truly wild. And sometimes I'm like, if I just went hard into this and like really did those brand collabs, and like you can make a really, 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 really good living off of it. So yeah.
Have you ever wanted to just, leave your day job and pursue that fully?
I almost did. So right now, once you like, obviously the goal is to become work optional, to walk away from money, but in the meantime you're kind of like a hoe for money. Like anything, like this is why I was kind of telling you before, and this is why it was so hard to coordinate. I like took 2 jobs because like I was getting like 20K a month, like working for like only 40 hours of like a 40-hour week work, but like making like double my money. And it was like, I couldn't say no. I was really going to just like I had one job, I got the other job. I was going to quit my job one. And then I was like, well, like I'm making double my money. I can do the work. Both bosses are saying I'm doing a good job. So then I just like kept doing 2 jobs and I couldn't say no. It was very stressful. It was so stressful. Like I went dark on my social media for like a solid like 2 months. But yeah, like sorry, I don't know where I was going with this, but like I did think about saying no to the second job, which ended up offering me a full-time job. And instead just doing content creation. And then I kind of got cold feet. I'm like, this is sure money. This is unsure money. There's a kind of, but then obviously with a 9 to 5 job, there's like a max. Like you can only make $30,000, maybe a bonus, and like, but there's a cap to it, and there's obviously no cap on like your creation and your skills. So, and do I think I have the ability? Yeah, I actually do. I think I have the personality and like the graphic. Honestly, it's been so good having a graphic design skill set, and I'm a designer, art director, and like being able to create all the content and make it like look on brand and really good, I think is so helpful to just like looking like a real authentic brand. I don't know. Like it's just, so I think I could do it. It's scary. And I think in the end, it's like, okay, that's a sure paycheck, health insurance, dollar in my pocket every week versus like the unknown. I couldn't bring myself to do that yet. And one day I won't be, thirsting for money. And that's when obviously I will take Millennial Money Honey to the next level. Sorry, I hope this is okay to say these things.
Yeah, no,
Perfectly fine.
I think me and Greg we were just kind of, we just got on Spotify and we're on Google Podcasts and Pandora and stuff. We're working on that. And I was joking with Greg. I was like, do we say explicit content? Because there was a button, like if you do explicit content on your podcast, you have to like click a button. I didn't click it. So now I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to go back and re-click that button.
Yeah, we'll probably
No, it's fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, it's totally worth it though.
Review it. So is it just you on your team, right? You said you're a graphic designer. All of your posts, videos, TikToks are phenomenal, right? It makes it look like you have more than one person on your team. Or is it just you doing all of this work?
Just me. Yeah. Single woman. Sometimes my sister will go in and like respond to brands for me and just like handle like that thing. And if she does, then I'll give her a cut of the brand deal. But other than that, like on a day-to-day basis, like I do everything.
Okay. So do you have set goals that you want to achieve for Millennial Money Honey this year?
Do I have set goals? I set $12,000 like just income. And then I think I really want to put out like merch or design some merch or like really like subtle things so that to me feels most authentic. And even though I, like I say not to like buy things frivolously, I think like having like my Girl on Fire t-shirt, like so that like if you look closely, it's like you can see the slash, like, but it'll be, I think it could be a cool way to like start conversation for like the people who get it. Like you'll be like, oh, you're a girl on fire versus like, oh, she's a girl on fire. Like cool. Like it would just like be a way to like start conversation. And I think ultimately, I don't know what will happen this year other than I want to have like more meetups is to build like a bigger community around especially women in finance and women on fire. So just like I had like one meetup / clothing swap and that was really fun, but it was hard to like, I guess, talk to people while you were like looking at clothes. Like I had everybody bring their gently used clothing and then you could like look at the rack and like take clothes that were mild clothes and like just take them and you get a wardrobe refresh. So stuff like that, like that will help people get together and all the things are in line with all the things that I value. I want to do more of that this year, maybe like once a quarter. So did one for Q1. So, and yeah.
Nice. Do you charge? So like the clothing swap, that's an interesting thing. I saw your story on that. Just curious, like, do you charge like an entrance fee for anyone who wants to go to the meet, or do you charge per item, or is it just completely free?
That was completely free. My friend, How to Be Broke in New York, Julianne, she hosts a clothing swap. She's done a few free ones, and now she started like charging them. Her events are really huge, though. Like she coordinates with local New York City like businesses to host the clothing swap. So that whole like putting on a whole event space. I think ideally like I would be doing something like that. But I don't know. I haven't like built up any like business connections and maybe I need to like hop on the phone with Julianne and pick her brain as to how she like goes about doing that. She's so much more outgoing than me. So like she'll strike up conversations with people on the train and just like tell them about clothing swaps and stuff. And yeah. So I need to like figure that out, but I think that could be down the line, like something that might work out. Yeah.
Do you think that you talked about building a brand? Do you think that once you hit your fire goals, you might leave your day job and pursue that full time?
Absolutely. Definitely. Without a doubt in my mind. Like that is definitely what I'm gonna do. Um just yeah, the money. It's about money. I'm like a quarter, three over a quarter of the way, like 35% to my fire number of 1.5 million. Um and yeah, that's the plan. And that's why I'm like
Okay, yeah,
I kind of sorry. I kind of like want to test it out sooner, and that is definitely why I might do like a corporate sabbatical sooner. Because what if I like really hate it? I'm scared of. I mean, I'm doing all the things now, like sort of as a hobby, so I know I like it. But like, what if it's just not what I think if once I do it full time? So kind of curious to take a few like 4 to 6 months off doing it before I hit my goal, like in 5 years. So maybe in like 3 years, I'll
Mm.
really seriously consider doing it just to test it out, and get a better sense of what I'd be doing once I reach fire and like how my day to day would play out. Because that's so interesting to me. I've never been in that space to be able to do that.
yeah, absolutely, and I think that'd be fantastic, right? Do you think that more people should take sabbaticals on their journey to fire, or do you think it's all individually based?
Yeah, I really do. I think a lot more people I see in the space are like, especially with this whole like great resignation, like the amount of people taking these corporate sabbaticals. And I know LinkedIn added a feature to like highlight a corporate sabbatical and explain that on your like digital resume. Like, I think it's
Mm.
now is the time to do it. And there's like more, more need for that, especially with all the burnout and like fatigue people are experiencing having worked from home for the last 2 years. I think, yeah, like you just realize there's so much more to life and like testing those out because, yeah, I don't really think everybody's cut out to just really slow down their life in the same way. But I think it really is like a very introspective way to figure out like what your passions are. So I think it's important.
Yeah, so LinkedIn actually came out with two articles, and I would love to get your opinion on them. Just kind of an overview. One talked about us switching to a 4-day work week. Do you think that would be good for us and actually increase productivity?
I think it's totally dependent on the company and the way they implement it. Like it's so hard to say. Like obviously if your boss doesn't expect you to like cram 40 hours of work into that 4 days, like versus just managing your own productivity and like keeping your amount of work the same, like then obviously yeah, that like could be good. But then if it's just like you're working overtime on the other 4 days, then that would not be good. So I don't know. Like it seems good, obviously in theory. In practice, I don't know. I don't know. I think it would be
That
easier
makes
if
sense.
like it got implemented universally. So like everybody's off on Friday and all companies are off. Then it's like okay, well nobody's working, so we're all going to collectively not work. So then that could be better. But I just don't see that happening, especially in our hustle culture of America. So
Yeah, and the other article actually talked about how I think there are some employers who let you create your own hours, which is also an interesting theory because some people might work better at the night, right? You might be a night owl and like get some of your best work done at like 2 a.m. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think a lot of companies should switch to that or maintain the disciplined 9 to 5, so to say?
I think that's interesting, like to set your own hours as long as it was like very regularly scheduled. Right now, I, in some ways, like set my own hours because my company's like Australia based. So like they're offline most of the day. I don't know. For me personally, I'll need structure. I need somebody telling me to be online at a certain time and when I don't have the self motivation to like necessarily like do it myself. Like that's the problem with when I tried freelancing and doing freelance work. I was like, and besides the deadline, we said there are no hours. And then so I would just pull all-nighters as like, and you don't do all-nighters, like, I feel like outside of college. Like, that's just not a thing. So it was very unhealthy for me. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of like, I mean, I'm also team office. I don't like working from home really. I like going into an
What?
office. I love people. I love, chit chatting and yo, you want to go get to the coffee bar and go get coffee? Like, like, let's go eat lunch. Like, let's go walk to Whole Foods. I'm very much like a in-person type of person. So I'm not like the best person to ask about these things because I like set hours and I like being in the office.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've never really had an office experience. So like when I got out of the army, I began my job with Wells Fargo in the mortgage industry, but that I never was in an office. It was all virtual, and now my current role at a different company is entirely virtual. And I've never been into an office. I don't know what that experience is like. So I'm also not a good judge because I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum where I only know work from home.
Greg, what about you? You sound like team work from home.
Yeah. I'm team hybrid. Because so like before the pandemic, obviously I was in office 5 days a week, and then we went remote, and I was loving it because my job is completely boring, and lots of times I have plenty of downtime. So it just saves you from having to pretend to be doing something at your desk when you don't really have anything to do.
Yeah, that's true. So true.
Which is what I like, but I do love the social aspect where you can joke around with your coworkers and or go get coffee, go grab lunch or something, and just like have that social interaction with people actually instead of just typing over a messenger chat all day.
Yeah, like 2 days a week, I'd be down.
Yeah,
but Austin, you actually strike me as somebody who would like that. You'd be like, yo, what's up? How's your weekend?
Yeah,
so that's definitely awesome.
I am more extroverted, and it's just kind of weird because I don't have I'm not with talking to people constantly. So in a way, this podcast has really helped because I'm kind of in a way I'm not in person with you guys, but it's also on video, so it kind of get the human perspective. Whenever I'm not doing this, just networking for my own business outside of this. So whenever I go to in-person networking events, it kind of helps, and you have the human interaction there. So how long did it take for you to build, Millennial Money Honey and your 28,000 followers at least?
Oh gosh. So 2019 is when I started Millennial Money Honey officially. And I mean, even 2 years ago, I only had like 3,000 followers or something really small. So it's just been in the last 2 years or so that it's really taken off. I think it's just like, yeah, I mean, I just think like at least to know people, it's such like a crazy idea, but also like once you get it, like it's a concept that I think really just resonates with everybody. And especially, as I was saying, with all the burnout and fatigue, and it's like, what will it take for me to end this all? Like, and when you say like, well, if you just save and invest enough money and have this nest egg and figure that number out and have that goal that you're working towards, like, then you could be financially free. You aren't beholden to a job. Like, who doesn't want that? And I think that with the mediums of TikTok, like that virality of people like sending that message to millions and millions of people, like that's like what's pushed my page to become so popular. So it's kind of a little bit of dumb luck and like timing, honestly. I wish even too, I had started a couple years earlier. I started technically posting about my money journey in 2017. And I thought about doing YouTube, and I really wish I did because that's like kind of the Graham Stephan era and like those like big finance content YouTubers. And if I had started then in that space, like I like had the inkling to, but like I was like, like that's dumb. Like who would do that? And then if I had done that, like I could have been hanging out with Graham and Nate O'Brien. Like you never know. Like so maybe one day.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have been on our show, We wouldn't have been sliding your DMs like,
Dude,
can
no.
we get an interview?
No, either way, I think we would have. I think we would have. I still would have been like in CPO5. Like for those of you who don't know, there's like a Facebook group for fire singles. I feel like nobody really knows about that, but
let's keep it that way. There's enough of us in there already.
Sorry, yeah. You can edit this out.
I'm just kidding.
Just crops it. So do you think you're gonna, is Millennial Money Honey going to adapt to your life in terms of, for example, you get into a relationship, are you going to start, adding content for things couples can do on, your fire journey together?
I think so. Like, obviously, I think I've tailored it with the ultimate goal of like being more of a lifestyle brand, and eventually it'll just be like the life of somebody who's reached early retirement. And that's really like my goal is I'm not as interested. Well, I'm not interested in it, but I'm not as interested in the nuances of like basic finance. Like I'm really just more interested in sharing my journey and like so that it always will be evolving with how I'm growing, and therefore it'll always be interesting to me. Because at the end of the day, you'll become debt free, and then it's like if you're a debt free account, like what else do you talk about after that? So like ensuring that this account can grow with me, and eventually it'll be like, like cost of weddings, cost of like buying my first house, and everything. It's so easy to relate back to money, the numbers of everything. How much it costs to have a kid. If I for whatever reason have to go through IVF, like all of the numbers will, I think, always stay relevant and just it'll always be interesting and to me and to those people at that same point in their lives and just generally. So yeah, it will grow.
Now, what would you do if, you found an ideal partner, but they weren't into pursuing FI? What if they were the complete other end of the spectrum?
Well,
is that a deal
partner? They're not the ideal partner.
That was easy.
Yeah.
I think,
all right.
Okay, to be fair, though, no. Like, I will say, as long as they're good with money, I really don't care if they want to keep working, if they want to be retired. The only thing is like they need to like just know what they want to do and pursue that, and let me do me, like pursue fire in that way. And I don't think because I don't think I'll become one of those like major digital nomad. Like that honestly is not that not my life. I think could fit a person easily into it. It's not like I'd be like traipsing around the world and if this person isn't on fire and wants to quit their job, then they need to do that. Like, I want to like settle down, have a house, like, live a normal life, and so as long as they're okay with that life and like those money decisions, like that's fine. Obviously the deal breaker really is not like whether or not they're into fire. It's more, are they good with money or not? And I don't think anybody wants a partner who will just blow their money, a couple $1 million on a bet. Unless, of course, he's like, has, I don't know, $100 million and can do that. Like, then that's really nothing. That's honestly smart with money. To take those leverage bets and like, I don't know. Yeah. But not a deal breaker. Sense. But yeah.
Okay. Are you actively dating? Or are you looking to like
so I've sort of been dating, and he is also into fire. So it's like, okay, like he knew about fire before I brought it up. And so that's always been like,
nice.
from the get-go, like, oh, I'm a finance influencer. Have you heard of FIRE? So it's always been, I think, fairly easy. So never had that. But he's the only person I've really talked to but even before I met the person I've been dating more seriously, it's like, I think all the guys that I've really talked to are very like supportive of like, oh, that's really cool that you are interested in talking about finance from like, and helping other women like achieve that. So I don't think what dude, I guess there are dudes that probably are like, wouldn't be as cool with that, but I don't know, maybe in California, I find like most guys are very open to strong, independent women.
Yeah, I mean, I think a majority of guys are open to strong, independent women. I think it's just you got to find the right one.
Yeah, totally.
With California being such a high cost of living area, do you have any other tips that you might think that could help someone who is possibly in the same situation in terms of living in California?
Honestly, what's been such a game changer for me, like prior to me moving and back in with my parents, is like I've always had like 3 like roommates, 2 to 3 roommates, like so there's like 3 or 4 people in a house that I've lived with, and that kept our costs like so low. Rent, I've never paid more than like $900 in rent, even prior to like for my entire life living in like the 10 years that I've lived in California. Granted, in college, like I shared a room with my roommate, and we were still best friends. And like after moving out, we all had our own rooms, and we're all paying like $900, I think was my rent at the most. So that's the key. Like, but I get that it's hard for you to find like people, but it's honestly like I feel like rent is everybody's biggest expense. So really like keeping that down, and you might not get along with everybody, but it's gotta be like 1 or 2 people, and if not, you just move out and find another person. Because to me, it's like I don't know. I get along with most people though, kind of. I haven't gotten along with all my roommates, but then they just move on.
So it's always that one roommate, right?
Yeah, right? And some is them.
It's never us. It's
Never.
ever us.
Never.
So for someone who is looking to get into FI, being financial independence, do you have any resources that you recommend? Obviously, Millennial Money Honey. But do you have any good resources that you started off with that might be helpful to other people like our rich journey?
Yeah. So definitely Mr. Money Mustache, as I was saying, I thought Mad Scientist, though, his podcast and his blog he like visually explained everything really well in his blog posts. And then the book Quit Like a Millionaire by Christy Shen and Bryce Leung, that was also very, very eye-opening. And that's a great book for people who think like, oh, like I could never do it. Granted, they're both like software engineers, but again, like I say this as like coming from a design and creative space, like you don't need to be an engineer to make a good living for yourself and get that money. But like that book really opened my eyes to like, yes, I can do it. And I absolutely like everybody should be doing this. So yeah.
Do you have any
and
advice
of course,
for
Life, Love, and Pursuit of FI podcast? Sorry. The Life, Love, and Pursuit of FI. Don't forget.
Yeah. You gotta write it down. Get it tattooed. I'll say, do you have any advice for people, getting started into like content creation?
Oh yeah. Great advice. Okay. So I think Canva honestly really makes it so easy for people to build out their brand, and like it's like, I don't know, $12 a month to like be able to create branded content that already like looks really good. I don't know. I feel like and again, this is coming from a creative person, like when I look at an account, I'm like, do I like what it looks like first and foremost? Like, and then like, do I like the person? Or no. If I like the person, like I'll follow them, obviously. But like, Like just having that brand together, like I'm like, oh yeah, they look legit. So that makes me, so just investing in something like Canva that's like cheap and easy to start up with is like cool. Also, by the way, I started working for Canva, so I don't tell anybody that, but you guys can have the
no.
official tea on this podcast. And then, honestly, just doing it. And I think, like there will be times when you get kind of bored of it and it's kind of a drag, but like, I don't think everything needs to be perfect. And I see some people like delete all of their posts and like I change everything. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, just keep iterating and like keep going and it will always improve. It's kind of like investing. Like you do one thing and then you're like, oh, that wasn't quite right. And then you just keep building on what you've already started. I think brand building is the same as that. Like it's easy and just connecting with like, sending DMs to like people, even like in the same niche, but like on the same like level as you, and you'll have your peers who you eventually will all grow together, and you'll see like, wow, it's so cool to celebrate their wins and see their growth, and see how far they've come. Like money with Katie, like that was insane. She was like, oh my god, like you're so cool. Like I look up to you, and like look at her now. She's like acquired by Morning Brew, and it was like amazing, like so cool to see that, like versus when we were like in the same space, like amazing. And she keeps like changing up her brand and growing and growing and growing it, and you'll see like if you go to where she started, like her stuff was like, whoa, that looks interesting, and now it's like all together. Granted, yes, she's acquired by Morning Brew and she has a whole team behind her, but like even when she was like, she finally decided to invest in a designer herself after a certain point and like build out her brand more like together and put that together. So I don't know, just keep going. Don't be discouraged. And if nobody, like, you're gonna shout into the void for a while. I'm not gonna lie, I did. We all did. So you look at how far I've come, like, and you see that now. But again, I was literally just telling my parents and my aunts and uncles for the longest time that they should invest in a Roth IRA. So yeah.
So, from backing up before that, do you say you are employed by Canva?
Yes, I actually am. That's my new job.
Okay. Well, I was literally about to ask because I was gonna say because I also use Canva. Like that's how we created our new logo that we just created.
Nice.
And I was going to ask. I was like, "Are you sponsored by Canva?" But now I actually know that you're employed by Canva. Surprise!
More than sponsored.
World premiere.
Really? Yeah. No, I actually don't really like. I mean, if people go into So if you're listening to this, you're getting the tea. I really don't disclose where I work usually, because like, what if somebody comes in? Well, actually, it's all remote, so they can't show up at the office. But yeah.
We'll release this episode 2 years from now, so that you will have been gone by that time.
I'll be on my corporate sabbatical by then.
Yeah, we'll even though we're recording this in 2022, we'll say we recorded this in 2017. We'll backdate it.
That's right.
There you go.
That's what we do. We don't condone fraud. Let's just say that right out front.
Yeah.
Just overall, we were joking. Katie, do you have any questions for us?
When is this dropping? Where can we find you guys?
Where can't you find us? Right now we're on Spotify.
Yeah, find us on Spotify. Videos going up on YouTube. We're working on
Apple Podcasts. Yes, YouTube. YouTube is a big one where you can find us. I'm assuming that anyone who's listening to our podcast is already found us, hopefully. But if not, we're working on Pandora. We're working on Google. And, just trying to be sponsored and building out, because there are so many content creators out there, who interviews them. And that's kind of like the idea behind it, and get their story, because, what they might post might be one thing, but you don't, like you said, you don't see the struggle that they went through. So, talking about that with them is like the idea of this podcast.
Yeah, nice. And sorry,
Hmm.
have you guys heard of Anchor? Not to Anchor.fm?
No,
No.
I haven't.
Oh, that's how I publish my podcast, and it does all the work for you. It pushes to Spotify and all the platforms for you. You just upload it, and you can like monetize right away. You just do an ad for Anchor at the beginning of your thing, and you can monetize through it. It's really, really easy. I don't know, not that you Anchor.fm. It's like actually Spotify's platform, so they'll push everything out for
Oh,
you. It'll be on Google Cast, like Google, Apple, everything, and it does all the platforms for you. It was the easiest way that
Those who,
I did to start my podcast, which I don't even upload to, but I still get money from.
okay.
oh wow.
Well, for those who aren't on video and just listening from Spotify, I just took notes. This is, it's
Also,
stuff like this.
Yeah.
truly, it's stuff like that, and it's like so easy. And honestly, content creation like that, like you could start a podcast. You just like record on your voice memo. Like anybody who wants to be a content creator needs to just go start now, start today, and start investing and all the things.
Perfect. Where's the best places for people to find you that you are actively posting?
Well, yeah, I'm over always on Instagram at MillennialMoneyHoney. I'm also on TikTok, MillennialMoneyHoney, and over at YouTube, youtube.com/KDT. That's CATIET.
And for the people listening, do you do any like personal mentorship if somebody wanted to reach out to you? Like I know you probably don't do it like now, but if somebody approached you.
If anybody ever has questions about FIRE, or like, especially like, I feel really comfortable talking to people about negotiating creative design compensation questions, like getting the money, getting that bread, like happy to reach out. I've randomly done a lot of portfolio critiques, like for people who are also like trying to become designers and really get that tech design money. So feel free to reach out. I don't really do any true like active mentorship, but happy to like answer your questions if you slide into my DMs.
Oh,
All
there
right.
you guys go. You said you guys are more than welcome to reach out if you have questions.
Yeah. Work related only. No sliding
Yes.
in DMs for personal, but nothing.
She'll slide in your DMs.
Yeah.
Yeah. She'll slide into your DMs. She'll reach out. Don't worry. But Katie, it's been an absolute pleasure. This has been Life, Love, and the Pursuit of FI with your host Austin Culp.
And Greg Gaskin.
And you have a good rest of your night, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.